What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Sally's Speed Shop. We are back on the Javelin. We have a little over a week until Sick Week starts, and this car needs a lot to be able to run and drive and do everything we needed to do on the street and survive 1,000 miles of driving with 5 days of racing, towing a trailer with all our spare parts, and yeah, no idea if it's gonna work, but we have a working car right now, so let's tear it pretty much completely apart a week before we need to leave. What could go wrong? So one of the most important things that I need to address is the fact that the headlights are currently stickers. These are Protronics no lights. They used to run them on race cars back in the day, and they were still with this car when we got it, so we stuck them on there temporarily. But we're gonna be replacing it with this new hotness from Holley Performance. These are the Holley Retro Brights. It has an LED cartridge that goes in the back, and these put out an amazing amount of light with a great pattern, and they actually draw less amperage, so it's less harsh on your car's electrical system, especially when you have a race car with not a super high amperage alternator. So we're gonna put these on both sides. I'll have to show you how I'm doing that because currently there is no headlight bucket in here. As you can see, it's just a flat piece of metal. So I have some headlight buckets I'm gonna fit to the car and then be able to put these beautiful things on there. Oh, and you might notice we're also running this beautiful air cleaner from our friends over at Holley Performance as well. So yeah, get some better fresh air into the car and look better doing it. So huge shout out to Holley Performance. If you have an old car that you drive at night at all, this is 100% the best upgrade you can have on them. I have them on the El Camino, I have them on the service truck, and I don't think I could go back to regular halogen lights after having these. They're a little pricey, but they are well worth it. And I would bet they actually pay for themselves in gas over the years because they pull less amperage, less draw on your alternator, so your engine's not working as hard to spin it. I bet they pay for themselves, and they're just amazing. Yep, get you a set. You won't regret it. This is one that's kind of gonna hurt me a little bit, but this scoop is impossible to see past in the car, and even though I do love the vintage look of this hood, the scoop has got to go. I am gonna try to reuse the top piece of it, but for now, I'm gonna cut along the line right where it meets the hood, and then hopefully I can cut right underneath the mouth of the scoop and trace a line on the hood and be able to keep that top section. Anyway, I'm gonna start cutting this thing and we'll see how it goes. So this rear section is going to have to get cut out too. And then we'll have a very floppy hood. So I'm going to have to add some kind of hood pins or something back here to hold it steady because there's not going to be anything across the back to hold it together. So let's start by cutting this out and then we'll drop it right back in and see how it fits. All right, take two. See if this fits any better. It definitely fits on there now. I am missing one tab back there. Now I want to see if I can make the hood scoop actually work on this thing too, because it'd be cool to put it back on. So I'm gonna go cut a couple lines in the hood scoop to get it flatter on the hood and see if it'll sit down on here too. Let's see if this fits at all, or if that was a waste of time. Definitely needs a little fine tuning, but it's really close already. Yeah, that actually looks really good on there. I was wondering what to do with this hood for a long time, and my buddy David recommended I do this, and I think it's gonna look really good. I think I'm gonna bring the back down a touch still. I'm pretty sure I have plenty of room for the air cleaner. I'm gonna go ahead and set it in there, then we'll get the scoop on and see what our clearances look like before I cut any more. But yeah, that's first try, and there's almost no gap over here. The other side has a tiny bit of a gap, but You can't complain with that even a little bit.
I've got the motor pretty much ready to pull, just have to pull the radiator out and the motor mounts and stuff, but I've got help.
David and Tyler showed up and they're gonna help me pull the whole front of this car apart. It's really hard to do it by yourself. You kind of need two people to pull the front clip off and be able to get to everything. So definitely appreciate them showing up, but I'm gonna put you guys on a time lapse and we're gonna tear this whole thing apart. And that's what you're supposed to do a week before you're supposed to leave for sick week, right?
Yeah, put one motor in one night, pull one out.
We're going the wrong direction with this car. We're taking it apart, but we'll get it apart and get the transmission fixed and then fix all the other things that need done too. All right, so we got the engine out of the car. Now we're gonna separate the transmission from it and put it up on the table and see what's going on inside of it. Beautiful. All right, so we got it on the table. David's about to yank the converter out of this thing. See if he can do it without making much of a mess.
Oh, not bad.
A little bit of a mess. So basically what we're gonna do, David's been watching videos. I've watched some videos. I don't know if we're even gonna have to touch the valve body if it is indeed just the second gear sprag.
Yeah, I think we can pull the forward drum out and then whatever the next drum is, and I think the sprag's right on there.
Yeah, so we're gonna find out. I've never actually attempted to fix an automatic transmission, so why not start with like a race spec one? That makes sense, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we're gonna dig into this thing and see what we can find. So we've got the pump out of the front of it. We've got the forward drum out, and we believe the problem should be behind this second drum. There should be a sprag on the back of it, and if it spins both ways, there's a problem. So we're about to find out, I think.
Yeah, we kind of hope that that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm hoping
that's
so.
An easy fix.
That's very easy. You don't have to rebuild everything and change clutch packs and all that. But everything else looks really good. It's nice and clean in here. The fluid's not burnt. There was some clutch material in the pan, but nothing like crazy excessive. So I think we're just gonna pull this out and see what happens. And there's where the sprag resides.
Yeah.
Does this spin both ways?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that means the sprag is not doing what it's supposed to. And that's what we were hoping actually, but that would be the problem. So we're gonna pull this C-clip off. All right, so this should just slide off here, right? So you can see in here, this is the sprag down in here. It's got these little like, I don't know, teeth or rollers in some of them. And it lets it rotate one way, but not the other. And I thought this was gonna have an old school sprag in it, but it looks like this transmission's pretty serious and already has a very upgraded sprag. And it kind of damaged the drum too, so I think we're gonna have to get another one of these drums and a new sprag. I'll just have to figure out what this is, and we'll have an upgraded part in the transmission, so that's a good thing. We got the whole drum apart. As you can see, this is the lip seal in there. It still moves, so it's not super dried out. I was kind of worried all the seals in this transmission were going to be dried out from it having sat for 30 years, but it seems like it's pretty good. So I think if we can get a new drum and a new sprag, that's going to be the route I take. But if not, I'll just polish this with some emery cloth, get a new sprag obviously, and polish up the little cage that goes on top of it as well, and hope for the best. But if I can find a new drum that's gonna fit this transmission and has the holes in the right spot, because they drill holes in some of these drums to change the way oiling works. And as you can see, there's like random holes, and you'd really have to be careful not to change the way somebody designed the transmission to work. So I'm not a trans guy, so I should probably not be doing any of this, but I did it anyway. I think at this point, I'm comfortable enough to put it back together to where it was just how it was. So if a transmission guy did have to see it later, he could be like, oh, this is what was happening. But yeah, did we learn anything? I don't know, but the transmission's apart. So it's a week till sick week. This is how the transmission looks. Perfect.
Hey, it's the last minute threat.
Yeah,
right?
what could go wrong? Well, it's another night working here in the shop on the Javelin, and look who finally showed up to help.
Yeah, it's dark, it's late on a Sunday night, and yeah, I finally got here.
Yep. But he's gonna work on getting the QA1 front suspension installed on the car, so he's assembling the coilovers right now, and then we'll get it on the front end. I'm working on the hitch and making sure we have a nice surface to mount the glass to when I take it to the glass shop tomorrow. So
Yeah.
still plenty to get done.
This can't go off without a hitch.
Oh, I didn't miss the dad jokes. So basically these come with a T-bar in them, and we're swapping it out for a spherical bushing. So he's got to pull these C-clips off, knock the T-bar out, slide that guy in there, and then assemble them, and we'll pull the old springs and shocks out of the car and slide those in. So it'll be good. Little update for you guys on how the coilovers are going. My dad's got this side almost in at this point, but had to do a little cutting. You can see there's a lip that used to be right here. Well, it was in the way when we were trying to put the coilover in, so I cut it off on that side. This used to hold the old coil spring, so gonna have to cut this one off as well, and then we'll have room for this thing to go in here and not have to jack the ride height way up for these to clear the control arm. At least that's the plan.
Minor modification.
Yeah. They might still need to go up some.
Plus weight reduction.
Sure, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the time lapse for you guys.
Man, what are you doing to the back of this car?
I bet when John built this thing, he never expected it to have a trailer hitch on it. So I had to cut out a little bit of metal so I can make room for the trailer hitch to sneak up in here. Yeah, we've already got trailer wiring hanging out. And we got a hitch that we're putting on it. We're just doing a class 2 because we're never gonna tow a car with this thing. But it's a beefy class 2 because I've seen a lot of drag and drive hitches break, and I don't want to deal with that. So making room for it to fit up here behind the gas tank. I'm probably gonna do some welding, so I should pull the gas tank out.
That's a great combination.
But if I'm welding right here,
yeah, it should be sealed
it
up.
should be fine, but we'll see.
It is officially time for this thing to go to the glass shop, so I got the truck and trailer outside the shop. Gonna wheel this up there, winch it on, and head to Carrollton because I need to get that done, and there's lots of other things to finish off here while it's gone, so it's not really hurting me at all to send it to the glass shop, and we'll have a nice glass windshield rather than that scratched up old Lex head. So making improvements here. Service truck coming in clutch as always. Thing is an absolute champ. So me and Moby, we're gonna get this loaded up and on out of here. I will say this is one of the nicest rolling cars I've ever experienced. It rolls so easy, it weighs nothing. Glorious. All right, so the car is back here at Whitman Auto Glass, and their whole parking lot is paved in glass. It's kind of cool. Never seen anything like that. There's glass everywhere mixed in with the gravel. But gonna leave it here tonight, come get it tomorrow, and it should have a windshield in it. You ever start a job you think isn't gonna take very long, and then it ends up taking you like hours longer than you could have ever anticipated? Well, the headers on the Javelin were a rusty mess, and so I decided to wire wheel them. So I stood at that wire wheel right there for like probably 2 hours, and then I spent another hour with the drill on a wire wheel, getting all the nooks and crannies as best I could. And I decided to weld on some EGT bungs so that I can run an EGT on at least one cylinder on both sides of the motor and keep track of things that way. And now I'm going to Scotch-Brite these things, hang them up, and paint them a very nostalgic color, because it was kind of a necessity, in my opinion, that these headers be this color. So you're gonna dig it, I think. There we go, just picked up the car from Whitman Glass here in Carrollton, and I gotta say they did a killer job. He used some universal molding in here and kind of flush mounted this window to where it looks absolutely slick. I mean, you look at it compared to the body, it is almost dead even. So Shannon here at Whitman Glass, if you have an old car and you need some glass work done, I highly recommend them. 1 day turnaround, really good pricing, and they're just fantastic people. So yeah, I am super stoked with that. All right, it is another night here in the shop. I got my buddy John who stopped in to help out. So he's working on the door panel over here, trying to fix the window track that's a little sticky. And I think we're actually gonna build door panels for this thing. Oh, look at that. It's not a real street car unless it has roll-up windows, in my opinion.
Like butter.
That's nice, way better than it was. So he's working on that, and I'm gonna start fitting up these goodies on the car. So Derale Performance sent over a whole bunch of cooling goodies for this car. We're gonna be running one of their single fans with a fan shroud. We're gonna have a big 40-row oil cooler in front of the radiator, so it's sharing that fan. And then we're gonna have a remote mount trans cooler with its own fan built in. It's gonna go in the rear of the car to cool the transmission while we're towing this trailer down the road, because race cars normally don't tow trailers, and you want to really keep your transmission cool if you want it to live while towing. So huge shout out to these guys for the hookup on all these parts. If you need any parts for your car for cooling, Derale Performance, I think, is one of the nicest brands when it comes to cooling components on any car. So go check them out. They have pretty much everything you need and much more. We have all the fittings, relay kits, mounting kits. Yeah, I think we're gonna be good. So I'm gonna show you guys where I'm putting this stuff and get it installed.
John under here has got the trans cooler mounted up under the car. It's really the only place we can think to mount it, because if you mount it back there on either side, it catches a bunch of crap from the tires. Anywhere else, it's gonna be hot. So we went right here, spaced it away from the floor a little bit. It's out of the way of the rear end, and the drive shaft can't come up and hit it unless the drive shaft explodes, which would be unfortunate. But we're gonna hope that doesn't happen. He's running some aluminum lines all the way from there up to the transmission, and then we'll have an installed trans cooler. Now that John has left and we've made some more progress on the car, I am returning back to trying to rebuild this transmission. Obviously, I'm not building everything. It's still mostly intact. I just really needed to replace the sprag. So got a new drum. I've gone ahead and drilled a 1/16 hole in the very corner of the bottom of the drum to let fluid escape. It's something that a buddy of mine on Instagram reached out and said, hey, let me help you with that. And he gave me a lot of really good advice to be able to put this thing back together. So I'm measuring the clearance right now for new steels and new clutches in the new drum using the old piston from the existing drum in the vehicle. So I'm leaving all the old waffle clutches out. There's a little bit of heat checking on the steels, so I'm replacing those with new clutches, and I basically am setting up
the tolerances like I should. So I am reusing the top steel because I didn't get a new one. So tiny little bit of heat checking, but I think it'll be fine. And brand new steels. I'm going to be replacing this one. Apparently that little V right there means it's the thinner clutch, and I need to replace that with a thicker one. So we're gonna go ahead and do that while I have all this apart. So my tolerance was way too large, and I'll try to explain what I'm doing, even though I really don't know what I'm doing. I have never rebuilt a transmission. I have never taken an automatic transmission apart to this level before, and there is a lot of witchcraft and sorcery going on in here. So hopefully I don't destroy it. We will see how it goes. So there we go, there's another thin clutch. We're gonna go ahead and get rid of that guy and replace it with another standard. No, we don't have another one. Replace it with another thin clutch because that's what we have. So hopefully one was enough to give me the tolerances I need. So we're gonna go ahead and stack this back up. So as you can see, the piston is in there and spins freely. So in theory, the lip seal is good. I put this thing in with a feeler gauge. I had a really thin feeler gauge because I don't have a lip seal tool, but I think it's good. So we're gonna go ahead and restack all these clutches. And when you stack them, you wanna try to line up the actual teeth, because that's what the front drum slides into. So I'm trying to line these up as best I can, and hopefully we'll be able to slip the whole front drum into this thing once it's done. So we'll just go ahead and stack these, and I'll talk to you when I put them back together. So this would be 72 thousandths. 72,000 still fits. I think I'm gonna reuse one of the old clutches and change it for one of the thin ones. I think that's gonna be the recipe. So let's do that real quick. I'm gonna change out this clutch for one of the thin ones in there. Well, there you go, got it back together. I still need to compress the springs and put that last C-clip on, but I set up all the clutch packs with new metals. I did have to reuse a couple of the old metals to get the thickness I needed. I got a clearance of 67 thousandths between the top clutch and the top plate here. So hopefully that'll be good. I'm not gonna mess with it anymore. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm tired of it. So I'm just gonna throw it together, throw it back in the transmission, and hopefully the transmission can go in the car tomorrow with the engine, because I'm gonna have my buddy David back over to help put the car back together. And then Friday, I would like to fire it up and make sure everything's good. And then Saturday, load it on the trailer and head down to Florida. Yeah, for the last minute, right? Anyway, we're making it happen. Huge thanks to Cameron and Michael Bilbrey, and also David for some of his advice on working on the transmission. He said if you don't have a lip seal tool, use a thin feeler gauge. And this 8 thousandths feeler gauge is perfect for putting a lip seal in. Who knew? So yeah, that's a win in my book, and I'm gonna slam this back together, and hopefully there's no more problems. So now it is time to update the cooling stack in this car, and we're gonna be getting rid of our single 16-inch fan with no shroud, and replacing it with a Derale Performance fan with their shroud. And the kit comes with brackets, bolts with nylocks, and even the rubber molding to seal it to the radiator. So super nice kit. This is a 17-inch fan that's 2 speeds, so it'll flow 1800 CFM or 2400 CFM. And then we're gonna be running an oil cooler in front of the radiator that the fan will also pull air through. Yeah, should be a killer upgrade that should help keep this car cool on the street. And I can't thank Derale Performance enough for helping out, because I think this was probably the most necessary mod outside of possibly restoring second gear in the transmission. So I'm gonna get all this stuff put on the radiator. So cue the time lapse and I'm gonna get to work. Oh, and David's here and he's about to start cutting stuff back there. So I just finished up mounting the radiator fan to the back of the radiator, and I gotta say, that looks a lot more race car than it used to. The old setup was not very good, but David's in here making our transmission removable, because before you would have had to pull the transmission out through the inside of the car because this cross member didn't come out. So we're putting some like plates that kind of saddle over the top of this bar, and we cut all 3 sides except for the bottom. So if we ever do have to take it out again, we just have to cut right there, pull 1 bolt out, and that'll work. Oh, you can keep welding. You don't gotta worry about me. There we go. So yeah, he's gonna get that welded in. We'll drill a couple holes, and then this thing will be good to go. Then we can bolt the transmission back to the engine and slide the whole thing in there. I should probably start checking some valves though, because I haven't checked the valve lash since we got this motor running, and I should probably at least see if anything's moved. I don't think anything's changed, but you know, it's good to check every once in a while and make sure nothing's eating itself inside your motor. David got the transmission cross member welded in, and it goes in with 2 bolts now, and looks super nice. So we'll be able to remove the transmission if needed, because I built the transmission, or at least half of it. So no idea if it's gonna work.
I have faith in you.
Yeah, I've also got some mirrors for the car that I painted to match. So we're making progress here. It's like 2 days till we leave for sick week. Yeah,
It's fine.
Plenty of time. All right, let's check some valves. right, so we checked all the valves on the motor, and it seems like everything's good because it was anywhere between 25 and 27 thousandths all the way across the board. And as far as I know, they were set at around 26 thousandths 30 years ago.
Yeah.
They haven't changed.
So that's good.
That's pretty wild. So we're gonna hook the transmission to this thing, grab the cherry picker, and slide it into the car. Yeah, still a lot to do, but this is a very big deal for this to go back in the car right now. All right, let's go. Boom, just like that. Engine and transmission is back in the car, and now I can finish all the other little details that go along with that. David's having to file on one of the bolts that we put a little booger on the thread, so the nut wouldn't start. So other than that, it's back in its home, and I am very excited to put the rest of the goodies on the car. I have some cool stuff we're gonna be doing, and it should make this car a lot nicer to drive on the street. Well, look who finally decided to join us.
Hey, if it wasn't for the last minute, I wouldn't show up.
That's pretty accurate. But he's working on the front end of the car. The whole front clip comes off in one piece, and we're adding some headlight buckets. Yep. These are from Watson Street Works or something. It's like a street rotting place for working on old 30s and 40s cars.
Yeah, I'm putting these on.
Okay, Dolly. But basically, cars that have fenders that these go in and that they're exposed to the tires, this protects the back of the headlight. So we don't have anything in the front of the end of this car at all. So I wanted to protect the retro brights so they didn't get shattered by a rock or something. So we're gonna put those in here. We're finally cutting out the no lights and putting in actual headlights. So
yeah, these should, what we put in should work a little better than the stickers.
Yeah, visibility with those is not great.
Yeah, and it's Holley Retro Brights. Those things are like one of the best things you can do for your car to keep it safe with nighttime driving, because they are so awesome.
I agree, and a lot of people say they're too expensive, but they pull less amperage, and over the life of that headlight, I would bet money that it's cheaper in gas, because it reduces load on the alternator, and that burns less fuel.
And you might not wreck your car because of it.
Yeah, so multiple benefits.
Yep.
But he's gonna get to work cutting that, and I'm gonna work on plumbing up the rest of the cooling on the car, and then buttoning up the interior, adding some electronics to this thing, some sensors, and hopefully firing it up here in a little while. So stay tuned. What you think, Mahomes? What you think? So my dad's still working on the headlights, but we've got some new special guests here in the shop. My buddy Taylor Hull showed up, and he's helping put the Zeus fasteners on the front clip. generally using pliers for hammers like he does. It's kind of his thing. Crescent wrenches and pliers are used as hammers regularly.
Yeah, backwards is a hammer, forwards is a pair of pliers.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
This is the way.
And David's back, the real MVP. He has helped so much with this car. It would not even be close to as done as it is if he hadn't shown up multiple times to help me put this thing together. He's tightening up the oil lines, gonna put the oil filters on, and we've got the trans pan on. Cooling lines run all the way to the back. I've still got to do a bunch of wiring, fix a few little things here and there, put the interior back together, and pack, because it's almost time to leave. So yeah, sick week bound. We have like, I don't know, you leave in like less than 12 hours.
12 hours, yeah.
I leave in probably 24 hours, knowing me, because I'll probably drive straight through the night to get down there right as tech closes.
Yeah, I like to sleep through the night. So.
Yeah, he's smarter than I am. And of course, Moby is passed out in the trailer. Oh, he woke up. I need to turn the lights on so you can see him. Yep, Moby is supervising from his bed. But yeah, still lots to get done. So cue the time lapse.
I think I got one headlight done.
Hey!
It only took, you know, like an hour and a half.
Anyway, back to the time lapse. We're gonna get this figured out and get some more work done. All right, so David is dumping some of our driven GP1 Nitro 70 weight into a funnel. And look, it doesn't flow at all. It's just locked in there in the funnel. And that's the recipe Lake Speed recommended for this car, is running half 20W50, half 70 weight, because aluminum rod motors, the rods grow way more than the crank does, and oil pressure drops when they're all the way hot. So in theory, that should help us keep oil pressure when we're idling down the street. Well, it is officially 7 o'clock in the morning and the car is still on the lift. Haven't even lowered it down. Been working on it solid underneath, doing stupid little things that took way longer than they should have.
That's the way it goes. I think it's time for some pretzels.
Yeah, so far he has almost finished the headlights and almost finished the hood. It took all night.
I thought I was finished with the hood.
Oh no, we just gotta test fit it and see how it goes. So we're gonna drop the car down and test fit the hood and see how the front clip and everything fits on this thing with all the Zeus fasteners actually riveted in, and hopefully it just all works.
It has taken me all night to do like 2 jobs.
Yeah, well, it took me like 2 hours to put the trans pan on and all the shift linkage and stuff, because everything was all kinds of messed up. So yeah, hopefully it's all fixed. We're gonna drop the car down and attempt to make it look like a vehicle again, because right now it's missing a couple things. So let's go.
It doesn't take much. 5 minutes will be.
It looks worse than it is. It takes like 2 minutes to put the front end on. So it is the last day working on this car, and basically all I have to do is top off the transmission and put the interior back together, and then I can load it on the trailer, and I can do the last little bit of wiring, the last little bit of fiddling with adding this thing called the carb cheater. So basically I'm gonna just get to work on this thing, and then I'll have to load it on the trailer, pack up all this junk that's scattered everywhere in the shop, say goodbye to Moby, which is the saddest part, and head to Florida and hope that this car has what it takes to drive almost 1,000 miles and run a 10-second pass at every single track. What could go wrong, bud? What could go wrong? right, so we got the Javelin pretty much ready. It's back there. We're about to load the yaw haul onto the car hauler, and hopefully everything fits. I think the Javelin is like 9 inches shorter than the El Camino. So the El Camino and the yaw haul fit last year. So I think we're good, but we'll find out. So cue the time lapse as we get this loaded and hit the road, because it is like what, 1, 2? And I was supposed to leave at like 6 p.m.
12:36.
12:36. Oh, we're ahead then. I was thinking it was 1 or 2 at this point.
Yeah.
So hooking up the winch. We're gonna winch this trailer up on this trailer, hook the tongue of it onto the trailer jack right there. It actually works really well. And strap it down and then get the Javelin. In the mad thrash to get the car ready to actually even leave for Sick Week, I completely forgot to film firing it up for the first time and making sure the transmission went through the gears. We didn't have any time to test drive it, barely had time to pack everything in the trailer and load it and get down to tech in time, but we got it hooked up behind the service truck and hit the road, not having any idea if the car was truly up for a 1,000-mile road trip and 5 days of racing. So be sure to stay tuned for the next episode of Sally's Speed Shop, where we try to take on Sick Week in a 40-year-old race car that hasn't seen the street since it was just a normal road car. Should be a good time.